I want to ask you, first of all, what's behind the decision with inflation rising over July, 7.5%? There's surely a reason to move on rates, but you haven't raised rates since 2007, and you've kept rates now unchanged for 7 months in a row.
Yeah, I think the Sri Lankan economy is moving exactly the way that we had planned it out to be. So the slight increase that we have seen in July did not cause too much concern to us, because we saw that as a slight aberration, but we expect it to moderate this month and keep to the path that we had trajected for it. So that's why we have decided to keep the rate as it is. Of course, we have had other concerns that we needed to worry about, which is mainly the credit growth, which has been sharper than what we have expected. But considering the volatility that we are seeing in the rest of the world and the other complications, we expect that also to moderate towards the end of the year, and it will perhaps be in line with what we had originally planned.
Let's discuss those complications from the rest of the world again. With your peers, when you meet them, amongst them all again, how does Asia feel the impact, and how frustrated is it that the US, Europe, of course, the debt contagion really does feed into the Asian inflation concern?
Certainly the uncertainty has given many worries to central bankers as well as the investors, and we are hoping that it will subside sooner than later. But if you look at the reality, it seems that it is becoming more and more complex as time goes on. But at the same time, what is needed now is to build up your own strength. And if you build up your own strength and you have more space to move about within your own economy, then the tendency for you to have the power to resist as well as deal with any of these crises would be much greater. And that's the way that we have moved, and that has served as well.
Do you think Sri Lanka, Governor, is isolated more than any other country in the Asian region from the US, European debt issues?
Yes, certainly, because our integration to the rest of the world has been certainly less than what Hong Kong and Singapore and other advanced markets have been subjected to. But nevertheless, we see an increasing tendency of investors coming into Sri Lanka as well. So naturally, the pressures would certainly be felt by us as well in time to come. And we need to build up the necessary cushions in order to be able to be strong enough to deal with such situations.
And Governor, I must ask you again, a quantitative easing 3 next Friday. Ben Bernanke does speak at Jackson Hole. Many are saying it could happen. And obviously for China, that's inflationary. And again, will that, I mean, from your peers and your central bank governor peers amongst the region again, are they quite angry about this quantitative easing 3 being even talked about? And if it happens, how damaging would it be for Asia?
You see, the central bankers are naturally wary about new money being created. And when new money is created without a corresponding asset or as well as wealth being created, it naturally leads to overall inflationary situation for the future. And that's something that we all have been very concerned about. But at the same time, I guess the situation is that some economies need to be highly concerned about their own situations at difficult times. So that's another factor that we need to understand. So when you look at the impact to the rest of the world, it's definitely going to be a challenge. It's definitely going to mean that other economies also would need to take some measures to deal with the impact of such policy measures. That's definitely going to be more challenging even in the future compared to what QE2 posed to the rest of the world.
Morgan Stanley this morning, overnight rather, talked about insufficient policy response from the US and from Europe again. Would you agree with that?
I would think that the tendency has been in the face of difficult situations, many countries to look at their own situations and then take decisions, which sometimes can be challenging for the other countries. What is perhaps needed is for a consensus to emerge between all the key economies, and then for them to take a overall policy decision, which can then be a lot more acceptable to every country.
Governor, I must go back to Sri Lanka if I can. Thanks for asking questions about the rest of the world. You do forecast growth of 8.5% this year, up from 8% in 2010. If that were the case, it would actually beat India for the first time since 2000. How proud are you of that?
Actually, we're not in competition. We are really looking at doing the growth as well as our own economic management in the best way possible, which will suit our own country's conditions. And there may be instances where we would do better than some other countries, but in some other instances we may do not as good. So what we like to see ourselves doing is to kind of like a golf game where we improve our own game as we go along, and well, if it does mean that we have performed a little better than somebody else, that would be something that is not really the intention that we are looking at.
A golf game can be quite frustrating, so I'm guessing you're going for a par around the course, right?
You were quite right there.